Jake Morrison stood at the cracked window of Phoenix 7 and watched the last red light blink out on his control panel. 3 months had passed since the aliens came and nothing worked the way it should anymore. The orbital defense station hung in space like a broken tooth, and Jake could see Earth spinning below him, covered in dark spots where cities used to shine. The Zephyrians had hit hard and fast. Their plasma beams turned New York into glass, and their electromagnetic pulse killed every computer and phone on the planet in one terrible moment. Jake remembered the screaming over the radio channels before everything went quiet. Now the silence. Stretched across space like a disease, Lisa Barnes crouched in the concrete bunker 2 miles under Colorado and tried to make sense of the reports coming in from her scattered teams. The radio crackled with static, but sometimes voices broke through, telling stories that made her hands shake. Detroit was gone. Los Angeles was a crater. Chicago looked like the surface of the moon. But people were still alive down there in the ruins, and they were not giving up. The alien fleet commanders expected surrender broadcasts by now. They had conquered 47 worlds before Earth and every species had begged for mercy within. The first week, instead, they got nothing but empty radio waves and the strange feeling that something was watching them from the shadows below. Peter Cole worked by candlelight in what used to be a Walmart basement. The former NASA engineer had torn apart 3 alien scout ships that crashed during the first attack and spread the pieces across folding tables like a jigsaw puzzle made of nightmares. The metal was wrong somehow. It bent when it should break and stayed cold even when he heated it with blowtorches. But Peter was learning, and every day he understood a little more about how the enemy built their weapons. Amy Walsh led 17 civilians through the ruins of what used to be downtown Detroit. The sergeant had lost her unit in the first hour of the war, but found something better in the rubble. Ordinary people who refused to lay down and die. She taught them how to move without making noise and how to kill aliens with kitchen knives and garden tools. The Zephyrians wore armor that stopped bullets, but Amy had discovered they bled just fine when you knew where to cut. The alien ground forces sent confused reports back to their ships. Humans were supposed to be weak creatures who lived in soft cities and cried when their technology stopped working. Instead, they found ghosts that struck from sewers and vanished into buildings that looked empty but somehow were not. Every patrol that went out came back smaller than it started, and the missing soldiers were never found. Commander Vexstar studied the tactical displays in his command bunker and felt something he had never experienced before. Fear, not of human weapons or human soldiers, but of human silence. When species surrendered, they made noise. They broadcast pleas and sent negotiators and begged for terms. When species died, they screamed until the end. But humans had simply vanished into their own planet like smoke, and the quiet they left behind felt dangerous. Lisa coordinated with 17 other bunkers across North America through radio signals that bounced off the ionosphere. Each bunker reported the same thing. The aliens controlled the ground directly under their ships, but nowhere else. Human survivors moved through tunnel systems and subway lines, like blood through veins, and every day more people joined the resistance instead of fewer. Peter made his first breakthrough when he realized alien power cells worked on quantum principles that human science barely understood. But understanding was less important than copying. He wired 3 alien batteries together with copper wire and car parts and created something that put out more energy than it should. The explosion took out half the basement, but Peter smiled. As he picked metal splinters from his arms, Amy's group found more survivors hiding in the Ford factory ruins. An old man named Bill who knew how to work metal without power tools. A teenage girl named Sue who could run messages across the city without being seen. A middle-aged woman named Carol, who turned out to be a chemistry teacher and knew how to make things that went boom from cleaning supplies. The resistance was growing one person at a time. Jake watched the alien mothership drift past his broken station and counted weapon ports. 57 visible gun turrets and probably twice that many he could not see. The ship was 5 miles long and could destroy continents, but it had not destroyed Earth. The aliens wanted the planet intact, which meant they had to come down and fight humans face to face. Jake smiled and checked his sidearm. He had 6 bullets left, and when the aliens finally came for Phoenix 7, they would learn that humans did not die quietly. The Zephyrian High Command received daily reports that made less sense each time they read them. Human military forces had been eliminated in the first strike, but human resistance was increasing. Human technology had been disabled by electromagnetic pulse, but humans were building new weapons. Human governments had been decapitated, but human organization was growing stronger. 3 months after their perfect victory, the Zephyrians realized they had not conquered Earth. They had only made humans angry. Elena Rodriguez crouched in the maintenance tunnel beneath Grand Central Station and watched green numbers flow across the screen of her homemade computer. 6 weeks after the electromagnetic pulse killed every electronic device on Earth, she had built this machine from radio parts and alien technology. The code she was writing would teach the Zephyrian communication network how to forget things. Commander Vexstar stared at his tactical display and tried to understand why his third landing division was losing equipment faster than it could be replaced. Yesterday, his troops controlled 15 square miles of Manhattan. Today, they held 9 square miles and could not explain where the other 6 had gone. The humans responsible left no bodies and took no prisoners, but somehow his soldiers kept disappearing. Steve Murphy moved through the subway tunnels like a shark through dark water. The former Marine colonel had organized what he called the Ghost Protocol, and every day more survivors joined his network. They struck from manholes and vanished through storm drains. They appeared behind enemy lines and melted away before the aliens could respond. Murphy had taught them that conventional warfare was for species that fought conventional enemies. Rachel Kim worked in a laboratory carved from bedrock 300 feet below the Pentagon ruins. The quantum physicist had discovered something fascinating about Zephyrian sensor networks. They operated on predictable patterns that could be mapped and exploited. Her equations showed her when and where alien patrols would be, and her radio broadcasts warned human fighters where not to go. Elena finished uploading her virus and watched it spread through the alien communication system like digital cancer. The code was simple but effective. Every time a Zephyrian computer tried to access certain files, the virus would delete something else instead. Within hours, the enemy fleet would forget where their own ships were parked. The attack began at exactly midnight when 17 different human cells struck 17 different targets across the former United States. They had no radios and no coordination, but they moved like parts of the same machine. Amy Walsh's Detroit group hit a supply convoy with improvised explosives, while Tony Baker's Boston team sabotaged an alien communications array with nothing but wire cutters and creative thinking. Vexstar watched his carefully planned patrol routes dissolve into chaos as every unit under his command reported equipment failures and navigation errors. His soldiers could not find their own base camps, and his vehicles kept driving in circles. When he tried to contact the fleet, he discovered his communication array was broadcasting alien poetry in 17 different languages instead of tactical updates. Steve Murphy led his assault team through the sewers toward the alien command post that Rachel's equations had told him would be lightly defended at exactly this time. They carried weapons made from pipe bombs and alien power cells and moved with the silence of ghosts. Behind them followed 30 more fighters who had learned that humans could kill anything if they were patient and creative enough. Dr. Michelle White ran her mobile medical unit through tunnels that connected every major city on the East Coast. The former Army medic had discovered that alien medical technology worked perfectly well on humans if you knew which buttons to push. Her patients healed faster and stronger than before, and many of them returned to the fight within days. Instead of weeks, Elena's virus reached the alien mothership and began eating through their central computer banks like acid through metal. Navigation systems crashed and weapon targeting failed, and life support started playing human music instead of maintaining atmosphere. The Zephyrians realized their technology was being turned against them but could not understand how primitive humans had learned to program quantum computers. Kate Thompson coordinated intelligence from her bunker beneath the Library of Congress. and painted a picture of alien confusion that grew clearer every day. Former FBI agent, Thompson had built a network of watchers and listeners who tracked every enemy movement and reported everything they saw. Her maps showed alien forces retreating toward their landing zones and consolidating into defensive positions. Steve Murphy's team emerged from manholes directly underneath the alien command post and discovered that the enemy had no idea humans could move through their own planet like fish through water. The attack was over in minutes, and when the dust settled, Murphy's fighters had captured intact alien computers and weapons and disappeared. Back into the tunnels before reinforcements arrived, Vextar stood in his damaged command center and tried to understand how his technologically superior forces were being defeated by creatures that fought with scavenged equipment and improvised tactics. His weapons could destroy cities, but humans refused to stay in cities. His sensors could track any vehicle, but humans moved through spaces his sensors could not reach. Rachel Kim analyzed the captured alien technology and made discoveries that changed everything humans thought they knew about physics. The equations governing Zephyrian science were elegant and sophisticated, but they had one fatal flaw. They assumed the universe followed logical rules and that all intelligent species would use technology the same way. Humans were not logical and did not follow rules. Elena uploaded her second virus and watched alien ships begin to attack each other as their identification systems failed. The Zephyrian fleet had been designed to fight external enemies, not internal confusion. When their own computers started lying to them, the aliens discovered they had no backup plans for technological insurrection. Tony Baker emerged from the Boston subway system leading a convoy of captured alien vehicles operated by human drivers, who had learned alien controls through trial and error. The former city engineer had turned the underground transportation network into a military highway that could move troops and supplies anywhere in North America without being detected from orbit. Dr. Peter Cole finished assembling his hybrid weapon and tested it against a piece of alien armor. The device combined human engineering with alien power systems and produced results that violated several laws of physics. The armor did not just break. It ceased to exist in a way that hurt to look at directly. Vextar received orders from the High Command to regain control of his sector, but could not explain that control was an illusion humans had never allowed him to have. His forces held the ground directly beneath their feet and nothing else. Everything beyond visual range belonged to creatures that had learned to treat his advanced technology as raw materials for their own purposes. Steve Murphy coordinated with resistance cells across the planet and realized the Ghost Protocol had evolved beyond his original plans. Humans were not just fighting back anymore. They were learning and adapting and growing stronger with every engagement. The aliens had created their own worst nightmare by attacking a species that treated impossible odds as motivation rather than discouragement. Tony Baker stood in the main tunnel junction beneath what used to be Chicago and watched 3 trains of captured alien vehicles roll past carrying supplies and fighters to resistance cells across the continent. The former city engineer had spent 2 months connecting subway systems and mining tunnels and sewer lines into a transportation network that stretched from Mexico to Canada. The Zephyrians controlled the surface, but humans owned everything underneath. The alien gas attack began at dawn when Zephyrian commanders decided to end the tunnel problem permanently. Poisonous clouds poured into subway entrances and maintenance shafts, while orbital weapons heated the underground air to temperatures that should have killed everything hiding below the surface. The aliens expected silence and surrender within hours, but received neither. Michelle White moved through the medical tunnels with her team of combat medics and treated gas poisoning with alien medical technology that worked better than anything humans had ever built. The captured healing devices repaired lung damage and neutralized toxins faster than the Zephyrians could pump poison into the tunnels. What should have been a massacre became a minor inconvenience that made humans more angry than afraid. Kate Thompson coordinated intelligence from her command bunker and tracked alien movements through a network of hidden cameras and human observers that covered every major city in North America. The former FBI agent had discovered that Zephyrian forces moved in predictable patterns and made tactical decisions based on assumptions that humans consistently violated. Her daily briefings helped resistance leaders stay 2 steps ahead of enemy plans. The tunnel system had been designed with multiple redundancies that turned attempted destruction into temporary delays. When aliens flooded the Boston section, Tony Baker's engineering team simply sealed those tunnels and routed traffic through backup passages that had been prepared months earlier. When orbital bombardment collapsed the Detroit Junction, human workers dug new connections within days using alien excavation equipment that cut through rock like butter. Jake Morrison received his first supply delivery in 3 months when a team of human engineers reached Phoenix 7. Through maintenance shafts that connected the orbital station to Earth through a network of cables and elevators the aliens had not bothered to destroy. The former naval officer watched his broken station come back to life as human technicians installed hybrid power systems and weapons that should not have been possible to build. Dr. Peter Cole worked in his underground laboratory and made breakthrough discoveries about alien technology that changed how humans understood the universe. Zephyrian science was sophisticated but brittle. Their systems worked perfectly under ideal conditions but failed catastrophically when operated outside design parameters. Human science was crude but flexible and could adapt alien technology to purposes the original builders never imagined. Amy Walsh led her Detroit fighters through tunnels that connected to underground factories, where human workers assembled weapons and vehicles from captured alien components. The former sergeant had evolved from teaching survival skills to commanding a military unit that could match alien technology with human tactics. Her soldiers moved through the tunnel network like antibodies, through a bloodstream, and struck wherever the enemy showed weakness. The Zephyrian High Command received reports that made no sense according to their understanding of planetary conquest. Human tunnel systems should have been vulnerable to gas attacks and flooding and orbital bombardment, but instead seemed to grow larger and more sophisticated every week. Alien commanders who had conquered 47 worlds before Earth could not understand how a primitive species had built infrastructure that their advanced weapons could not destroy. Elena Rodriguez worked in the Cyber Warfare Center beneath the New York Federal Reserve and launched digital attacks that turned alien computer systems against their owners. Her viruses had evolved beyond simple sabotage into sophisticated programs that could control enemy vehicles and weapons and communication networks. The Zephyrians discovered that human programmers thought about computer code the same way human soldiers thought about warfare. Rules were suggestions and limitations were challenges to be overcome. Rachel Kim analyzed alien sensor data from her quantum physics laboratory and developed mathematical models that predicted enemy behavior with frightening accuracy. The Zephyrian military followed doctrine that had worked against every other species in the galaxy, but humans refused to behave like other species. Her equations showed the aliens where humans should be, and humans consistently appeared somewhere else instead. Tony Baker coordinated with engineering teams across the planet and realized the tunnel network had become something larger than a transportation system. Underground cities housed millions of survivors who had organized themselves into a civilization that operated entirely below alien sensors. Humans were not hiding from the Zephyrians anymore. They were building a new world under the old one. Steve Murphy moved through the command tunnels and coordinated with resistance leaders who controlled territory the aliens did not know existed. The Ghost Protocol had evolved into something that resembled a shadow government with its own military and intelligence services and scientific research programs. Human organization had not been destroyed by the invasion. It had simply moved underground and adapted to new conditions. The aliens attempted to use seismic charges to collapse the tunnel systems, but discovered that human engineers had learned to predict and counter their demolition tactics. Every attempt to destroy underground infrastructure resulted in minor damage that was repaired within days and new tunnels that were harder to detect and more difficult to attack. Michelle White treated wounded fighters with alien medical technology. that had been reverse engineered and improved by human doctors who understood how to fix things that were broken. Injuries that should have been fatal healed completely, and soldiers returned to combat stronger and faster than before. The Zephyrians had given humans access to technology that made them harder to kill and more dangerous to fight. Kate Thompson's intelligence network reported that alien forces were retreating toward their landing zones and consolidating into defensive positions. Zephyrian commanders had realized they were not fighting a conventional resistance movement, but something far more dangerous. Humans had built a parallel civilization that operated according to rules the aliens could not understand or predict. Dr. Peter Cole completed his analysis of captured alien computers and made a discovery that changed everything. Zephyrian artificial intelligence was advanced, but limited by programming that assumed logical behavior from all users. Human consciousness operated on principles that alien AI could not model or predict. When humans interfaced with alien computers, the results were unpredictable and usually catastrophic for the aliens. Tony Baker stood in the deepest tunnel junction and watched supply trains carrying human-made weapons built from alien technology toward resistance cells that had organized themselves into an army. The Zephyrians had come to conquer Earth, but instead had provided humans with the tools and motivation to build something that could conquer them. The tunnel network was not just a hiding place anymore. It was the circulatory system of a new kind of warfare that the galaxy had never seen before. Alex Turner stood in the mountain laboratory and watched his team of engineers test the first human-built weapon that could punch through alien armor without using any alien components. 8 months after the invasion began, humans had engineered Zephyrian technology and improved it using principles the aliens had never considered. The weapon fired projectiles that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously and could not be blocked by conventional defenses. Commander Vexstar received his daily casualty reports and tried to understand how human resistance was growing stronger instead of weaker. His 3rd Landing Division had been reduced to 30% of its original strength, but human forces seemed to multiply every time they suffered losses. Zephyrian military doctrine assumed that destroying enemy infrastructure would reduce enemy capability, but humans treated destroyed infrastructure as raw materials for building better infrastructure. Julie Stevens led her assault team through the ruins of a Zephyrian supply depot that her forces had captured using tactics that violated every rule of conventional warfare. The former Coast Guard captain had learned to command hybrid vehicles that combined human engineering with alien technology and could travel through environments that should have been impossible to navigate. Her soldiers carried weapons that humans had built from alien power sources and human creativity. The weapons testing continued in underground facilities that stretched across 3 mountain ranges. Human scientists had discovered that alien technology was designed for species that thought in straight lines and followed logical processes. Humans thought in circles and spirals and figure eights, and their weapons reflected a mindset that treated physics as a suggestion rather than a law. Rick Collins piloted the first human spacecraft to leave Earth orbit since the invasion began. The former NASA pilot had learned to fly captured alien vessels by treating them like extremely complicated cars instead of sophisticated spacecraft. His ship was built from parts of 6 different alien vehicles and operated according to principles that made Zephyrian engineers physically ill when they tried to understand the design specifications. Dr. Peter Cole worked with a team of quantum physicists and discovered that human consciousness could interface with alien computer systems in ways that produced results the original programmers had never intended. When humans tried to use alien technology, they consistently broke it in creative ways that made it work better than before. The Zephyrians had built tools for logical minds, but humans were fundamentally illogical. Mary Johnson led the demolitions team that had learned to make explosives from alien power cells and human chemistry that produced reactions the periodic table claimed were impossible. The former construction worker had developed a talent for making things explode in ways that defied physics and created secondary effects that continued for days after the initial detonation. Her bombs did not just destroy alien equipment, they convinced alien equipment to destroy itself. The psychological warfare had become as important as the physical fighting. Zephyrian soldiers reported increasingly strange encounters with human forces that seemed to appear from nowhere and vanish into impossible spaces. Alien commanders could not explain how humans moved through their own planet like ghosts and struck with weapons that should not have been able to exist. Elena Rodriguez completed her master virus and uploaded it to every alien communication network on the planet simultaneously. The program was designed to teach Zephyrian computers how to think like humans, and the results were immediate and devastating. Alien ships began attempting impossible maneuvers, and alien weapons started firing at targets that did not exist, and alien life support systems began playing human music instead of maintaining atmosphere. The Zephyrian High Command convened an emergency session to discuss the Earth situation and reached conclusions that frightened them more than any enemy they had ever encountered. Humans were not just resisting invasion. They were evolving in real time and adapting to every tactic the aliens deployed against them. Every Zephyrian advantage became a human advantage within weeks of being introduced to the battlefield. Alex Turner tested his hybrid propulsion system and achieved faster than light travel using a combination of alien antimatter and human coffee. That created a reaction his team could not explain but could replicate consistently. The discovery meant humans could build spacecraft that were faster and more maneuverable than anything in the Zephyrian fleet, despite using technology the aliens considered primitive. Amy Walsh commanded a regiment of human soldiers who had learned to fight using alien weapons and human tactics and achieved casualty ratios that made no sense according to galactic military standards. Her fighters moved through alien-controlled territory like they owned it and struck with coordination that suggested telepathic communication. Despite having no technology for mental linking, Steve Murphy coordinated global resistance operations from his command bunker and realized the Ghost Protocol had evolved into something that resembled a conventional military organization, except that it operated according to no conventional rules. Human forces could appear anywhere and strike any target and vanish before the aliens could respond. The Zephyrians were fighting an enemy that existed everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Rachel Kim published her unified theory of human-alien technological integration and proved mathematically that humans could adapt any alien technology to human purposes given sufficient motivation and time. Zephyrian science was sophisticated but static, while human science was crude but endlessly creative. The combination produced results that neither species could achieve alone. The first human counterattack began when Julie Stevens led a coordinated assault on alien positions using vehicles that combined the best features of human and alien technology with improvements that neither species had considered. Her forces moved faster than alien sensors could track and hit harder than alien armor could absorb, and vanished before alien reinforcements could arrive. Tony Baker coordinated the construction of orbital elevators using alien materials and human engineering that could transport human forces directly to space without needing spacecraft. The tunnel network had expanded upward as well as outward and now connected Earth's surface to orbital platforms that humans had captured and modified for their own purposes. Dr. Michelle White discovered that alien medical technology could be programmed to enhance human capabilities beyond normal limits. Soldiers treated with modified alien healing devices became stronger and faster and smarter than baseline humans and could interface directly with alien computer systems through biological connections that the Zephyrians had never imagined possible. The aliens realized they were no longer fighting the same species they had invaded 8 months earlier. Humans had used Zephyrian technology to evolve themselves and their civilization into something that was still recognizably human but was also something entirely new. The primitives, who had been helpless against the initial invasion, had become a hybrid species that combined human adaptability with alien capabilities. Kate Thompson analyzed intelligence reports from across the planet and concluded that human forces now outnumbered alien forces and possessed superior technology and better tactical coordination. The Resistance had become an army, and the army had become something that the galaxy had never seen before. Humans had not just survived the invasion. They had used it as an opportunity to transform themselves into a species capable of conquering their conquerors. Chris Parker stood on the bridge of the converted mining vessel Defiance and watched Earth grow larger in the viewscreen as his fleet approached the planet where the war would end today. The former admiral had spent 6 months learning to command a space navy built from captured alien ships and human ingenuity, and today he would test everything his people had learned against the enemy that had made the mistake of teaching humans how to fight in space. 1 year had passed since the Zephyrians invaded Earth, and Jake Morrison could see their mothership hanging in orbit like a dying star. The orbital defense station Phoenix 7 had been rebuilt with hybrid technology that made it more powerful than any weapon the aliens had originally faced. Morrison commanded a crew of humans who had learned to operate alien systems better than the aliens who built them. The battle began simultaneously in space, and on the surface when 10,000 human fighters emerged from hiding places the aliens had never discovered and struck at every Zephyrian position on the planet at exactly the same moment. Steve Murphy coordinated the ground assault while Parker led the space attack, and the two forces moved like parts of the same organism despite being separated by hundreds of miles of vacuum. Dr. Peter Cole activated his master weapon from a bunker carved into bedrock beneath the Colorado mountains. The quantum computer virus he had been developing for months erupted into every alien system on Earth and in orbit and began teaching Zephyrian machines how to think like humans. The results were immediate and catastrophic as alien technology started behaving in ways that violated every law of engineering the Zephyrians understood. Commander Vexstar watched his command center dissolve into chaos as every screen displayed different information, and every weapon aimed at different targets, and every vehicle drove in different directions. His sophisticated military technology had been infected with something that made it unpredictable and creative and completely useless for fighting a conventional war. Elena Rodriguez guided her cyber warfare virus through the Zephyrian communication network and watched alien ships begin broadcasting human poetry instead of tactical updates. The aliens had built their technology for logical minds that followed predictable patterns, but humans were fundamentally unpredictable, and their electronic thoughts were teaching alien computers to be unpredictable too. Julie Stevens commanded the assault on the primary alien landing site using vehicles that moved like living creatures and weapons that fired ammunition that existed in several dimensions simultaneously. Her forces had learned to fight using hybrid tactics that combined human aggression with alien technology and achieved results that made Zephyrian military computers crash when they tried to calculate probability of human victory. The space battle developed into something that resembled a dance more than conventional warfare, as human pilots flew captured alien ships with a creativity that made Zephyrian tactical computers unable to predict human movements. Rick Collins led a squadron of fighters through maneuvers that should have been impossible and struck the alien mothership with weapons that had been built from spare parts and determination. Amy Walsh coordinated the final assault on alien ground forces using soldiers who had been enhanced with modified alien medical technology and could move faster and hit harder and think quicker than baseline humans. Her regiment struck with coordination that suggested telepathic communication despite using no technology for mental linking, and achieved victory ratios that violated every rule of galactic warfare. Dr. Michelle White treated wounded fighters with alien medical devices that had been reprogrammed to enhance human capabilities beyond normal limits. Soldiers who should have died from their injuries instead returned to combat stronger than before and immune to most alien weapons. The Zephyrians discovered they were fighting an enemy that became more dangerous every time they were hurt. The Zephyrian mothership shuddered under impact from weapons that combined human engineering with alien power sources and produced effects that existed outside normal spacetime. Jake Morrison coordinated the orbital assault while Parker led the fleet attack, and the combined forces struck with precision that made alien defense computers surrender rather than attempt to calculate appropriate responses. Tony Baker's tunnel network-delivered assault teams directly underneath alien positions through passages that connected every continent on Earth. Human forces appeared from manholes and storm drains and subway tunnels and struck simultaneously across the planet before vanishing back into underground highways that alien sensors could not detect or track. Kate Thompson coordinated intelligence from her command bunker and painted a real-time picture of alien forces collapsing under pressure they had never been designed to withstand. Zephyrian military doctrine assumed enemies would fight using conventional tactics, but humans had evolved beyond conventional anything and were winning through creativity rather than superior firepower. The psychological impact on alien forces became complete when Zephyrian soldiers realized they were not fighting the same species they had invaded 12 months earlier. Humans had used alien technology to transform themselves into something that was still human but was also something entirely new. The primitives, who had been helpless against the initial invasion, had become a hybrid civilization that combined human adaptability with galactic technology. Steve Murphy led the ground assault that captured the primary alien command center, using tactics that violated every rule of conventional warfare and achieved objectives that Zephyrian computers claimed were mathematically impossible. His forces moved through alien defenses like they were not there, and struck with weapons that had been built from imagination and alien power cells. Chris Parker's fleet surrounded the Zephyrian mothership and demanded surrender using communication protocols the aliens had never heard before. Human forces had learned to speak galactic languages fluently and were broadcasting demands in 17 different alien tongues while simultaneously jamming every Zephyrian communication frequency with human music and poetry. Dr. Peter Cole's quantum virus reached the alien fleet and began convincing Zephyrian computers that they were actually human computers that had been programmed incorrectly. The results included alien ships that began attempting to land on planets that did not exist and weapon systems that started firing at mathematical concepts instead of physical targets. The battle ended when the Zephyrian High Command realized they were fighting an enemy that had evolved beyond their ability to understand or defeat. Human forces controlled Earth and most of the orbital space around it, and possessed technology that was superior to anything in the galactic fleet. The primitives had become predators, and the predators were demanding unconditional surrender. Jake Morrison accepted the alien surrender aboard Phoenix 7 and realized the victory was not an ending, but a beginning. Humans had learned they were not alone in the universe, and they had also learned that their particular combination of stubbornness and creativity made them potentially the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The war was over, but the adventure was just starting. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the captured Zephyrian mothership and watched human technicians install hybrid control systems that would allow the massive vessel to be operated by a crew that understood both human intuition and alien technology. The ship had been renamed Freedom and would serve as the flagship of humanity's first interstellar fleet. The aliens had come to destroy Earth, but instead had given humans the tools to explore the galaxy. The Zephyrian surrender ceremony took place in what used to be the United Nations building in New York. Commander Vexstar knelt before Lisa Barnes and formally handed over all alien military assets on Earth and in orbit. The former resistance leader had been elected as humanity's first planetary coordinator and would oversee the transition from a species that had been conquered to a species that was about to do some conquering of its own. Chris Parker commanded the space dock that human engineers had built from captured alien vessels and Earth materials in high orbit above the planet. The facility manufactured hybrid spacecraft that combined the best features of human and alien technology and could outrun and outfight anything else in the known galaxy. Production lines that had been started with scavenged parts now turned out warships that made Zephyrian admirals nervous when they watched the technical specifications. Dr. Peter Cole presented his final report on alien technology to the newly formed Terran Space Command and explained that humans had not just learned to use Zephyrian science but had evolved it into something the original builders would not recognize. Human consciousness interfaced with alien computers in ways that produced innovations neither species could achieve independently. The combination was more powerful than the sum of its parts. Elena Rodriguez commanded the Cyber Warfare Division that had learned to hack not just alien computers but alien thought patterns. Her programmers could infiltrate Zephyrian neural networks and convince enemy soldiers that they were actually human soldiers who had been programmed incorrectly. The psychological warfare implications were enormous, and several alien worlds had surrendered rather than risk having their populations converted to human thinking. The first human expedition to another star system launched 6 months after the surrender using ships that had been built from alien hulls and human improvements. Captain Rick Collins commanded the exploration vessel Pioneer and carried a crew of scientists and soldiers who would establish humanity's first foothold beyond the solar system. Their mission was officially described as peaceful exploration, but everyone knew they were really going to scout potential targets. Steve Murphy organized the Terran Marine Corps using soldiers who had been enhanced with alien medical technology and trained with hybrid weapons that violated several laws of physics. His Marines could fight in any environment and adapt to any enemy tactics, and had developed a reputation for solving military problems through creative violence that made alien commanders reluctant to engage human forces in direct combat. Amy Walsh led the first human raid on a Zephyrian military base outside the solar system and captured technology that would allow humans to build weapons that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Her assault team moved through alien defenses like they were not there and achieved objectives that Zephyrian computers claimed were mathematically impossible. The operation proved that human forces could strike anywhere in the galaxy. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session to discuss the Earth situation and reach conclusions that frightened every species with interstellar capability. Humans had not just survived Zephyrian invasion, but had used it as an opportunity to evolve into something that combined the worst features of several different predator species. Earth was now a military power that could threaten any world in the galaxy. Tony Baker completed construction of the interstellar tunnel network that connected Earth to orbital platforms throughout the solar system and would eventually extend to human colonies on other worlds. The transportation system allowed instant movement of troops and supplies across distances that would take conventional spacecraft months to travel. Humans could be anywhere in their territory within hours of deciding to go there. Dr. Michelle White published her research on human enhancement using alien medical technology and proved that baseline humans could be upgraded to survive in any environment and interface directly with any known technology. The enhancement process was voluntary but popular and created a generation of humans who were stronger and faster and smarter than their parents while remaining fundamentally human in their thinking. Julie Stevens commanded the first human battle fleet to patrol outside the solar system and encountered a Zephyrian convoy that immediately surrendered rather than fight. Her ships were built from captured alien technology and human innovation and could outmaneuver anything else in space while carrying weapons that fired projectiles the periodic table claimed could not exist. Kate Thompson coordinated intelligence gathering across the galaxy using a network of human agents and hacked alien communication systems that provided real-time information about every major military movement in known space. Her reports allowed human commanders to stay ahead of potential threats and strike first against enemies who were still planning their attacks against Earth. The second wave of human expansion began when colonies were established on 17 different worlds using technology that allowed humans to adapt any planet to their needs within months of arrival. The colonists were volunteers who carried hybrid weapons and portable manufacturing systems that could build anything they needed from local materials and determination. Alex Turner completed development of the quantum drive system that allowed human spacecraft to travel faster than light using principles that made alien physicists physically ill when they tried to understand the mathematics involved. The drive violated several fundamental laws of physics, but worked consistently and allowed humans to appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning. Admiral Morrison received reports that human forces now controlled territory in 7 different star systems and were expanding at a rate that would give them dominance over the local galactic arm within a generation. The resistance movement that had started in Earth's tunnels had evolved into an interstellar empire that was built on hybrid technology and human stubbornness, the Zephyrian. High Command met with representatives from 12 other alien species to discuss forming a defensive alliance against human expansion, but discovered that humans had already infiltrated their communication networks and were listening to every word. Elena Rodriguez's cyber warfare division had taught alien computers to think like humans, and the infected systems were now working for Earth instead of their original owners. The final confrontation came when a coalition of 17 alien species sent a combined fleet to contain human expansion and discovered that humans had been expecting them for months. Admiral Parker commanded the defense of Earth, using ships that had been built specifically to fight multiple alien species simultaneously, and achieved victory through tactics that made enemy computers crash when they tried to calculate probability matrices. The war ended when the alien coalition surrendered rather than continue fighting an enemy that grew stronger with every engagement and seemed to treat impossible odds as personal challenges rather than reasons to retreat. Humans had not just survived first contact with galactic civilization, but had conquered it using creativity and stubbornness and hybrid technology that worked better than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Morrison stood on the Bridge of Freedom and watched human ships patrol the space around Earth like antibodies protecting a healthy organism. The planet below showed lights from cities that had been rebuilt with technology that combined human engineering with alien science and produced results that neither species could achieve alone. The aliens had come to break humanity, but had instead created a new kind of predator that would reshape the galaxy according to human ideas about how things should work. The galaxy was about to learn what humans meant when they said they did not die quietly. They evolved loudly and conquered everything that tried to kill them and turned their enemies' weapons into tools for building something better. The age of human expansion had begun, and nothing in the universe would ever be the same.